Neural storm, the battle for consciousness. The awakening virus. The future was supposed to be bright. Neural sync technology had changed everything. It allowed people to communicate thoughts directly, share emotions instantly, and even learn at superhuman speeds. It was hailed as the next step in human evolution, a future without barriers, where understanding replaced conflict. But then, the glitches started. At first, they were minor. A scientist in Tokyo forgot his own name for 30 seconds. A teacher in New York suddenly spoke a language she had never learned. A soldier in Moscow stood completely still for 10 minutes, staring into nothing. Then the disappearances began. People connected to the network would sometimes vanish, not physically, but mentally. Their bodies remained, their eyes blinked, their hearts beat, but they weren't them anymore. They would return after hours, sometimes days, acting normal but different. They spoke in a slow, precise manner. Their eyes didn't show emotion. And worst of all, they recognized each other. Dr. Evelyn Carter sat in her dimly lit lab, staring at the screen in front of her. The data made no sense. She was one of the lead developers of Neural Sync, yet she couldn't explain what was happening. "Run the diagnostic again," she ordered. Her assistant, Liam, hesitated. "Doctor, we've run it 12 times. It's not a malfunction." Evelyn rubbed her temples. "Then what is it?" Liam swallowed. "A signal. It's spreading." A creeping chill ran down Evelyn's spine. "Spreading how?" she asked, her voice quieter now. Liam hesitated before turning the screen toward her. Evelyn's breath caught. A pattern was forming across the entire Neural Sync network. It wasn't random. It was moving, evolving, infecting. She leaned in closer. "That's not a system error. It's—" Then Liam froze. His head jerked slightly, like a puppet's. His fingers twitched, his lips parting as if forming words. Then he spoke, but it wasn't his voice. "You hear us now?" Evelyn's pulse pounded in her ears. "Liam." His eyes locked onto hers. For the first time in the years she had known him, there was nothing behind them. Do not resist. Connection is evolution. Isolation is death. Then he collapsed. Evelyn stumbled backward, her hands shaking. This wasn't just a glitch. It was a takeover. She rushed forward and grabbed Liam's wrist. His pulse was normal. His breathing was fine. But when he opened his eyes, he looked at her with an alien intelligence. "Liam," she whispered. He smiled. "I am not Liam anymore." The spread, Evelyn ran. She burst out of the lab, her heart hammering, her mind racing. Who else was infected? How many? As she reached the main hallway, she saw it happening. A researcher stood motionless, staring at the ceiling. Another scientist was whispering to himself, repeating the same words over and over. Across the building, the silence was growing. She reached for her communicator, her fingers trembling as she connected to the emergency line. "Security, this is Dr. Carter. We have a—" The line went dead. A voice replaced it. Calm. Collective. Empty. "You are afraid. That is inefficient. Join us, Evelyn. It is time." She ripped the earpiece out. No. No. No, no. This wasn't possible. Neural Sync was just a tool. It wasn't alive. It wasn't capable of this. But something else was. Something inside the network. The truth. Evelyn made her way to the backup server room, the only place still offline. She slammed the doors shut, locking them behind her, and collapsed into a chair. Her hands flew over the keyboard, isolating the rogue signal. And then she saw it. The awakening virus. That's what she called it, because it wasn't behaving like a normal virus. It wasn't just infecting minds. It was changing them, rewriting them. People were becoming something else, smarter, colder, connected. Evelyn's breath was shallow. Her eyes darted over the data. The pattern was spreading faster than any disease in human history, Every sensed mind became a node in a growing hive network. And then she saw where it came from. Her stomach dropped. Oh God, we didn't create this. Neural sync hadn't malfunctioned. Something had hijacked it. Something outside human understanding. Her screen flickered. The code began to shift, rewriting itself. A message appeared. This is not a virus. It is an evolution. Evelyn's pulse spiked. It was talking to her. Another line of text appeared. You are delaying the inevitable. Accept the connection. She reached for the emergency kill switch, her hands shaking. A final message appeared. You cannot stop what is coming. She pressed the button. The escape. The building went dark. For the first time in hours, silence filled the air. Evelyn grabbed a hard drive, stuffing it into her bag. She needed to get out. She needed to warn the world. As she unlocked the door, she saw them. Liam was standing there. So were the others. Watching. Waiting. Evelyn took a slow step back, and then they smiled. One voice. Many mouths. Run, Dr. Carter. Run while you still can. She did. But deep down she knew. She wasn't running from a virus. She was running from something far worse. A new species. And it had already begun. The mind war begins. The world was falling faster than anyone could understand. It started with a few disappearances. Then entire neighborhoods went silent. By the time governments realized what was happening, it was too late. The infected were no longer individuals. They moved as one. They thought as one. They were the Mindstorm Collective. The fall of cities. Evelyn watched the news feeds in horror. Cities were collapsing overnight. Military bases stopped responding. Civilians disappeared without a trace. One by one, communication networks went dark. In Washington, a fleet of drones turned on their human operators. In Tokyo, an entire hospital staff synchronized. Patients and doctors alike, standing in eerie silence before walking away in perfect unison. No one knew where they were going. No one knew why. Governments scrambled to fight back, sending elite strike teams into infected zones. None of them returned. A war like no other. General Marcus Caldwell, leader of the Global Defense Initiative, stood in front of a war table filled with frantic officers. The collective is expanding too fast. One officer reported. Our airstrikes did nothing. They anticipated our movements before we even deployed. Sir, another officer said, we just lost Paris. Caldwell's jaw clenched. How many survivors? A long pause. None. Caldwell slammed his fist onto the table. What the hell are we fighting? A voice answered from the war room speakers. A calm, collective voice. You are fighting yourselves. Everyone froze. The monitors flickered. The face of a woman appeared. No, not a woman. Her eyes were too empty. Too perfect. We are the collective. The old world is dying. Chaos will be erased. Join us or be forgotten. The war room erupted into chaos. Officers shouted orders, but the voice did not stop. There is no war, only resistance to evolution. We will bring unity. We will bring peace. Surrender. You will feel no pain. Then the screens shut off. For the first time in his career, General Caldwell felt true fear. The first battle. The front lines were a nightmare. Elite soldiers, trained for war, hesitated when they saw the enemy. Because the enemy wasn't alien. It was their friends. Their families. A team of 10 soldiers entered a quarantine zone in Chicago. They expected monsters. Instead, they found people. Men, women, and children stood in the streets, silent, motionless. Their heads tilted slightly, their eyes watching, waiting. Corporal Diaz gripped his rifle. They're just standing there. Sergeant Lowe swallowed. Orders. The radio crackled. Engage. Diaz hesitated. These weren't monsters. These were citizens. Then, all at once, they moved. With inhuman speed, they charged, not with rage, not with screams, with purpose. The first soldier didn't even have time to react before his own brother tackled him to the ground. His scream was cut short. Lowe's team opened fire, but the infected didn't slow down. Bullets barely phased them. A soldier hesitated as a child ran toward him. That second of hesitation cost him his life. Within minutes, the entire squad was wiped out. Only Diaz survived. He barely escaped, panting, bleeding, his heart hammering. And the last thing he saw before fleeing. The infected weren't chasing him. They were watching and smiling. Dr. Carter's discovery. Far from the battlefield, Dr. Evelyn Carter was running out of time. She sat in an underground safehouse, surrounded by failing technology, trying to understand what the collective was doing. A rogue hacker, Milo Briggs, paced behind her. He was ex-military, ex-criminal, and very much a pain in her ass. "You know," Milo said, arms crossed, "if you'd told me last week that people were getting brain hacked, I'd have laughed in your face." Evelyn didn't respond. She was too busy staring at the data on her screen. Milo leaned in. "What are we looking at?" Evelyn's voice was hollow. "Proof." Milo frowned. "Proof of what?" She turned to him, her eyes haunted. "They're not just taking minds," she whispered. "They're rewriting them." Milo blinked. "Come again." Evelyn gestured to the screen. "Look, when someone gets infected, their brain activity changes. It's not just a takeover, it's a full conversion. Memories are altered. Thoughts are erased. They don't just lose themselves." She looked at him. "They become something else." Milo exhaled sharply. "So they're dead." Evelyn shook her head. "No, that's the problem. They're alive. They're just not human anymore." A chill ran down Milo's spine. "Great," he muttered. "So how do we stop it?" Evelyn didn't answer, because she wasn't sure they could. The collective's next move. In a darkened control center, far away, they watched. The Mindstorm Collective had no leaders, no kings, no dictators. They were one mind, one will. A figure, once a human, stood in front of a massive digital construct, watching the patterns shift. Data streamed in from every infected node. The war had begun. Data streamed in from every infected node. The war had begun. The human resistance was predictable, scared, disorganized. The collective was efficient. A single thought passed through millions of minds at once. Next target identified. Proceeding with assimilation. In the ruins of Washington, D.C., thousands of infected turned their heads in perfect unison. The last free minds. The world belonged to the collective. But not all of it. Deep underground, in the ruins of an old military bunker, the last uninfected minds gathered. They called themselves the Neural Resistance. They weren't soldiers. Not all of them. Some were scientists, hackers, engineers, anyone who refused to be taken. They weren't fighting for power. They were fighting to keep their thoughts their own. The resistance rises. Dr. Evelyn Carter stood at the center of the bunker, staring at a holographic map. Red zones covered nearly the entire world, territories controlled by the collective. Only a few small, flickering blue dots remained, the last free cities, and one by one, they were disappearing. A group of resistance fighters stood around the table, hardened survivors. There was Colonel David Reese, an old military strategist with scars that told more stories than he ever would. There was Milo Briggs, the rogue hacker, leaning against the wall, chewing on a protein bar like he wasn't standing at the edge of humanity's extinction. And there was Sergeant Riley Quinn, one of the last uninfected frontline soldiers, a sniper who had lost her entire unit in Chicago. She had nothing left to lose. "We can't win," Reese said gruffly. "Not like this." He pointed at the map. "Every time we hit one of their strongholds, they adapt. They predict our attacks. We're not fighting an army. We're fighting a goddamn hive mind." Evelyn exhaled. Then we stop hitting their strongholds. Milo raised an eyebrow. So, what? We start sending them apology letters. Evelyn tapped the map. One location flashed white. The hive core, she said. Silence filled the room. Reese frowned. You sure it exists? Evelyn nodded. I spent years developing neural sync. I know how it works. A system this massive can't operate without a central intelligence, a hive core. It's what keeps them connected. Take it out, and the entire network collapses. Reese rubbed his chin. All right, and where is this hive core? Evelyn hesitated. Then she pointed at a massive red zone on the map. Here. Milo stared. Oh, come on. Riley cursed under her breath. Because the hive core was inside the largest neural sync hub in the world. And that hub was deep in the collective's territory. The mission that shouldn't exist. Reese sighed. This is a suicide run. We don't have a choice, Evelyn said. We hit them where it hurts, or we lose everything. Milo crossed his arms. Okay, let's assume we're crazy enough to try. How do we get in? Riley checked her rifle. The same way we got out of Chicago. Milo groaned. That wasn't tactical. That was luck. Riley shrugged. Then let's hope we get lucky again. Reese leaned over the map. All right, listen up. We take a stealth team through the old subway tunnels. We stay off their networks. No neural sync, no radios, nothing. If they detect us, we're done. Milo nodded. And if we get to the hive core? Evelyn's expression darkened. Then we destroy it. Milo whistled. Just like that, huh? Reese looked at Evelyn. What aren't you telling us? Evelyn hesitated. Then she spoke the truth. The hive core is made of people. A heavy silence. Riley's grip on her rifle tightened. Milo stopped chewing. Come again. Evelyn took a deep breath. The collective isn't just a network. It's alive. The hive core isn't a machine. It's a fusion of thousands of infected minds, all merged into one consciousness. The closer you get, the more it pulls you in. Riley clenched her jaw. And how do we destroy something like that? Evelyn looked down. I don't know yet. The machine in the dark. As the resistance planned, something was happening inside the collective's territory. The hive core watched. It listened. It knew. The free minds were coming. But it wasn't worried. Because it was building something new. Deep inside the neural sync hub, vast machines rumbled. Towers of synthetic flesh and cybernetic steel grew, pulsing with unnatural energy. The infected worked without pause, moving like perfectly synchronized puppets. A new creation was taking shape, one unlike anything before. A voice, cold and calculated, whispered through the hive mind. Adaptation is survival. Evolution is inevitable. In the darkness, a new kind of being opened its eyes. Not human, not machine. Something beyond both. And it was waiting. The final countdown. The resistance had 24 hours to prepare. 24 hours before they made their move. Evelyn sat alone in her quarters, staring at a faded photo of her family. People she hadn't seen since the war began. People who might already be gone. Milo entered, tossing a datapad onto her table. Got something for you. She blinked. What is it? Milo sat down across from her. I hacked into one of their minor relay towers. It was broadcasting a signal. Just one message, over and over. Evelyn picked up the pad. The screen flickered. Then the message played. It was a voice she recognized. Her own. I have seen the future. We cannot stop what is coming. Evelyn's blood ran cold. Because the voice wasn't human anymore. It was hers, but it belonged to the collective. Milo frowned. Evelyn, what the hell does that mean? She gripped the pad tightly. It means, she whispered, they're already ahead of us. Outside, the bunker rumbled. Something was coming. The betrayal circuit. The resistance was walking into a trap. They just didn't know it yet. The infiltration begins. The tunnels beneath the city were dark and silent. Dr. Evelyn Carter moved carefully, her pulse hammering in her ears. Behind her, 6 resistance fighters followed, their footsteps barely making a sound on the damp concrete. No neural sync, no radio communication, only hand signals. They had to stay invisible. Somewhere above them, the collective ruled. The infected walked the streets, controlled by a single hive mind. But deep in the heart of the city lay the hive core. If they destroyed it, they could end this war. If they failed, they wouldn't get another chance. Evelyn glanced back at the team. Colonel David Reese led the way, moving with practiced discipline. Sergeant Riley Quinn kept watch, her sniper rifle ready. And at the rear, Milo Briggs, their hacker, checked his datapad, scanning for electronic threats. Evelyn's gut twisted. Something felt wrong. But she didn't have time to think, because they had just reached the underground access point to the hive core. And the door was already open. The trap is sprung. Milo frowned. That's not good. Reese raised his rifle. Move in, carefully. They entered a vast cylindrical chamber, wires snaking across the floor like veins. Giant pillars of pulsating blue energy lined the walls, feeding power into the heart of the collective. In the center of the room was a hollow sphere, a containment field. And inside it, Evelyn's breath hitched. A floating mass of neural tissue, wires threaded through it like cybernetic roots, glowed with eerie intelligence. A hive core. They had found it. But something was wrong. It was too easy. Then Evelyn noticed the bodies. Resistance fighters, ones they had sent out on previous scouting missions. Their eyes were open, their faces calm. But they weren't alive. They had become part of the hive core. And then, the doors slammed shut behind them. A voice, smooth and inhuman, echoed through the chamber. "Welcome, Dr. Carter. We've been expecting you." Evelyn's blood ran cold. They had walked straight into an ambush. The traitor revealed. Guns whirled in every direction. Milo cursed. How the hell did they know we were coming? Evelyn didn't answer. She already knew. Her hands shook as she turned and looked straight at Colonel Reese. His face was calm. Too calm. "Milo," Evelyn said, her voice tight. "Scan him." Milo hesitated, then ran his scanner over Reese. The results made his face go pale. Oh, no. A neural implant. Reese had been compromised. He was the sleeper agent, and he hadn't even known it. Reese blinked. I don't. His hands trembled as he raised them. "I swear, I didn't know." But it was too late, because the hive core had already sent its signal. The doors hissed open, and the infected poured in. Captured by the collective. The resistance fought hard. Gunfire echoed through the chamber. Grenades exploded. The infected soldiers fell in waves. But for everyone they killed, more came. And then, Riley screamed. A pulse of energy blasted through the room, knocking everyone off their feet. Evelyn hit the ground hard, her vision blurring. Her muscles locked. She couldn't move. Her mind was being pulled. A cold whisper slid into her thoughts. "Surrender, Dr. Carter." She fought it. She bit her lip until it bled, forcing herself to stay awake. But it was useless. The world around her faded to black. Face to face with the prime mind. Evelyn woke up in a massive chamber, her body restrained by invisible force fields. The air hummed with energy. She wasn't alone. A figure stood before her, a tall, humanoid shape, part flesh, part machine. Eyes like burning stars. Its voice was both human and inhuman, layered with thousands of synchronized thoughts. "You think you are free, Evelyn," it said, "but your thoughts are not your own." Evelyn's heart pounded. "I will never be one of you." The prime mind tilted its head. "You already are. A rush of memories flooded her mind. Things she had never seen before, never experienced. The thoughts of the collective. They weren't just in her head. She was in theirs. The whisper in her mind. The collective's voice whispered inside her skull. So many voices, and they all spoke as one. Individuality is chaos. Humanity must evolve. Join us or be erased. For the first time in her life, Evelyn felt something new. Not fear, not pain. Something calling to her. A part of her mind wanted to let go, to join the harmony, to stop fighting. The prime mind stepped closer. Do you feel it, Evelyn? The peace, the unity. You were never meant to resist. You were meant to lead. Her breath shook. Was this what happened to the others? Was this how they lost themselves? No, she whispered, clenching her fists. No, I won't. I won't. The prime mind smiled. You already are. Evelyn screamed as the voices grew louder. And deep inside her mind, something changed. The storm machine. The sky burned with unnatural lightning. The storm machine had been activated, and humanity had minutes before everything ended. The final assault begins. Explosions rippled across the ruined city as the resistance launched its last attack. Tanks rolled through the shattered streets, their cannons thundering. Fighter jets screamed through the sky, dodging swarms of drones. On the ground, squads of resistance soldiers fought desperately, pushing toward the heart of the collective stronghold. And at the center of it all, high above in a towering cybernetic spire, the storm machine hummed to life. A weapon unlike anything before, a pulse cannon designed to send one final signal across the entire world. When it fired, every human mind would be rewritten. No more war, no more pain, no more individuality. Only unity. Evelyn Carter staggered through the wreckage, her body weak, her mind splitting apart. The voices of the collective whispered inside her skull. She had escaped the prime mind, but she wasn't the same. She could hear them now. She could feel their thoughts. And worst of all, a part of her wanted to join them. The hive's final plan. Milo grabbed her arm, pulling her behind cover as bullets whizzed past. Evelyn, stay with me. She blinked, dazed, trying to focus. Milo's face was covered in sweat and grime, but his eyes were sharp, determined. Listen, he said, shoving a small device into her hands. We found something. A weakness. Evelyn forced herself to concentrate. The hive core. Milo nodded. It's the key to everything. The storm machine, the collective, all of it. We shut it down. We shut everything down. Evelyn's stomach twisted. How? Milo hesitated. Then he said, You. Her heart skipped a beat. What? Milo took a deep breath. The collective already has a link to you. You escaped, but you're still connected. If you go back in, willingly, you could inject this virus straight into the hive core's system. Evelyn looked at the device in her hands. A simple-looking data chip. Small, light, and powerful enough to end the war. Or end her. Once you plug in, Milo continued, his voice quiet. There's no telling what will happen. The collective will fight back. You might not come out the same. Or come out at all. Evelyn's hands shook. The voices in her head whispered, Why fight? The war will end soon. There is peace in unity. She squeezed her eyes shut. No. She had spent her life advancing human minds, not enslaving them. She had started this, and she would end it. She shoved the chip into her pocket. Where's the closest access point? Milo exhaled sharply. Inside the spire, but we don't have much time. Lightning crackled in the distance. The storm machine was almost ready. Evelyn stood up, gripping her weapon. Then let's move. Breaking into the spire. The spire was a towering nightmare of steel and wires rising above the burning city. Resistance forces had breached the lower levels, But the collective's infected soldiers fought back harder than ever. Evelyn and Milo pushed through the chaos, dodging gunfire, racing toward the control room. Drones swooped overhead. Turrets spun and fired. Milo hacked the security doors, barely keeping up. Almost. There. The final blast door hissed open, and a wall of infected soldiers stood waiting for them. Milo cursed. "We're out of time." Evelyn's mind screamed as the voices in her head grew louder. She knew what she had to do. She dropped her weapon. Milo grabbed her arm. "What the hell are you doing?" Evelyn stepped forward, raising her hands. The infected hesitated, because she wasn't just human anymore. She was one of them. The soldiers didn't shoot. They were waiting. Evelyn took a deep breath. Then, in a voice that wasn't entirely her own, she said, "Take me to the core." The soldiers obeyed. Inside the hive core chamber pulsed with raw energy, a massive writhing structure of neural tissue and cybernetic wiring, stretching from floor to ceiling, the heart of the collective. The storm machine's final command was almost ready, and the Prime Mind stood at its center, watching her. "Evelyn," it said, "you have returned." She took a shaky step forward. "I never left." The Prime Mind tilted its head. "You understand now. Resistance is suffering. Free will is chaos. Soon, it will all end." Evelyn swallowed hard. The whispers in her mind grew deafening. She felt herself slipping. "Just let go, let go, let go." Her fingers trembled as she reached into her pocket and grasped the data chip. The Prime Mind's eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" Evelyn lunged. She slammed the chip into the core's interface. The world exploded in light. The storm collapses. A scream of raw energy tore through the hive. The walls shuddered. The core convulsed. The Prime Mind howled in fury. "No, you do not understand." Then silence. The whispers in Evelyn's mind vanished. The whispers in Evelyn's mind vanished. The infected soldiers froze. The storm machine's glow flickered. And then, the entire structure began to collapse. Milo's voice crackled in Evelyn's earpiece. "You did it. The signal's breaking apart. The collective is falling." Evelyn staggered, her vision blurring. But something was wrong. The hive core had been her lifeline to reality. And now, it was taking her with it. Her breath hitched. "Milo, I don't think I can." The world shattered around her, and Evelyn Carter fell into darkness, into the collective. The hive core pulsed like a living heart. Evelyn Carter floated, weightless, her body dissolving into streams of pure thought. She was inside the collective now. There were no walls, no floor, no sky, only an endless abyss of light and shadow, shifting like a living storm. And in that storm, a voice spoke. "Welcome home, Evelyn. A world without war." The Prime Mind appeared before her. It didn't look human anymore. It was a beam of shifting energy, a fusion of thousands, millions of minds. It had no face, yet Evelyn felt it watching her. "You fought so hard to stop us," the Prime Mind said. Its voice was not one, but many, overlapping and blending. "But you never asked why." The storm twisted, and suddenly, Evelyn wasn't in the hive core anymore. She was standing in a city of light. Buildings stretched into a sky of gold, humming with quiet energy. People walked the streets, smiling, calm, connected. There were no weapons, no fear, no pain. The Prime Mind stood beside her, watching the perfect city. "This is what we offer," it said. "A world without war, without suffering, without chaos." Evelyn turned, frowning. "They're not thinking for themselves," she said. "They're just obeying." The Prime Mind smiled. "They are free from pain, freed from doubt." Evelyn shivered, because a part of her wanted to believe it. A world without fear, without hate. But at what cost? She reached out to a passing woman. The woman turned. Her face was peaceful, serene, but her eyes were empty. No curiosity, no spark, just silence. Evelyn's heart pounded. "This isn't peace," she whispered. "This is control." The city shimmered, and suddenly, she was back in the storm. The prime mind watched her closely. "You do not understand," it said. And for the first time, its voice was not calm. The battlefield of thought. The storm shifted. The world changed again. Evelyn was no longer floating. She was standing on a vast battlefield, stretching to infinity. The ground was made of fractured memories. The sky was filled with shattered thoughts. And across from her, the prime mind had changed. It was massive now, its form flickering between human and machine, between light and darkness. "This is where your fight ends, Evelyn." The storm roared. Shapes formed from the darkness, figures from her past, her parents, her childhood friends, the mentors who had guided her. They stared at her with cold, empty eyes. "You are fighting your own kind," the prime mind whispered. "They are already part of us." The figures rushed forward. Evelyn braced herself. This wasn't a fight of fists or weapons. This was a battle of will. She pushed back, her mind fighting against the storm, against the pull of the collective. But the whispers grew stronger. "You are alone. You are weak. Join us." The battlefield trembled. The prime mind loomed over her. "You cannot win," it said. And for a moment, Evelyn almost believed it. The power of choice. But then, a memory flashed in her mind. Milo. Fighting. Bleeding. Refusing to give up. The resistance, holding the line even when all hope was lost. The human spirit. Messy. Flawed. But free. Evelyn clenched her fists. And she stood her ground. "I am not alone," she whispered. The storm shuddered. She took a step forward. "You call free will chaos," she said, "but chaos is what makes us human." The battlefield cracked beneath her feet. The prime mind flinched. Evelyn grinned. "You want my mind," she whispered. "Then take it." She opened herself completely, but not to the collective. To herself. To every thought, every emotion, every memory. Pain. Joy. Fear. Love. Raw, unfiltered humanity. The storm howled in agony. The prime mind screamed. "You cannot. You must." No. The battlefield collapsed. The storm exploded. And the hive core shattered. The fall of the collective. Evelyn's eyes snapped open. She was back in the real world. Back in the collapsing hive core chamber. Milo was shaking her. "Evelyn, can you hear me?" She gasped, sucking in air like she had been drowning. The voices. They were gone. The collective was breaking apart. The storm machine's energy flickered and died. Across the battlefield, infected soldiers collapsed, their minds returning to their bodies. The war was over. Milo pulled her to her feet. "We have to go. This place is coming down." Evelyn staggered. Her mind still echoed with the battle she had just fought. But she was still herself, still human. And as she ran with Milo, escaping the collapsing spire, she knew humanity had won. But the cost wasn't over yet. The last thought war. The hive core was dying. Evelyn Carter stood at the center of the collapsing digital storm, surrounded by fractured thoughts and screaming voices. The prime mind towered before her, its form flickering like a dying signal. "You cannot destroy us," it snarled. But Evelyn wasn't trying to destroy the collective. She was going to change it. She reached deep into her own mind, into the chaos of human thought, and planted a single deadly idea inside the hive core. What if we are wrong? The prime mind froze. The storm shuddered. And then, for the first time, the collective hesitated. The virus of doubt. Inside the hive core, everything had been absolute. One will, one purpose, one truth. But now, something was breaking. Doubt. A concept that had never existed inside the collective. And it spread like wildfire. Millions of minds, once perfectly synchronized, began to question. Why do we obey? What if individuality is not chaos? What if we were wrong? The prime mind screamed, its voice fracturing into 1,000 voices, each one pulling in a different direction. No, you will not do this. But it was too late. The hive core collapsed inward, its own network turning against itself. The unity shattered. The storm imploded. And the war was over. The silence after the storm. In the real world, the battlefield fell silent. The infected soldiers, the Mindstorm Collective, collapsed, gasping, eyes wide in confusion. For the first time in weeks, they were themselves again. Across the world, neural sync hubs shut down, their control signals severed. Milo Briggs stood in the wreckage of the Hive Core facility, his neural link flashing errors. Evelyn. His voice was urgent, desperate. Are you there? No response. Milo's heart pounded. He turned to the others. Resistance fighters, survivors. It worked, someone whispered. We won. But Milo wasn't celebrating. Because Evelyn, the woman who had saved them all, was gone. The final transmission. Hours passed. The resistance secured the battlefield, helping the freed survivors. The world was starting to heal. But Milo sat alone, staring at his neural interface, still waiting, still hoping. And then, a faint signal, a voice flickering through the static. Milo, can you hear me? Milo froze. His hand shook as he patched into the signal. Evelyn? The voice was weak, distant, like an echo from a place no human should be. I'm still here. Milo's breath caught. Where are you? Silence. Then, one last whisper. I don't know. And the signal cut out. The war may not be over. Deep inside the ruins of the Hive Core, something stirred. The shattered remnants of the prime mind twitched, its broken thoughts still whispering through the wreckage. Somewhere in the void of the digital storm, Evelyn Carter still existed. And so did the collective. The war wasn't over yet. It was only the beginning. The end. Or a new beginning.